it should be presenting. All of you guys should be able to see this. Again, if you guys have any questions at any time, please just feel free to turn on your mic and ask it. Or if you'd like, please send a message in the chat box, whichever you feel more comfortable with. Either one is fine with me. All right. Obviously, please ignore the date. It's just because it's just a copied like PDF. But anyway, leave that there for now. I shouldn't say PDF, but OneNote. All right. So let's begin with our questions. So question 1, it says determine the value of x here. Now, something we need to know in this particular case is how do we sort out 81 to the power of x? And we see that we're dealing with 3 as a base. So most of the time when you look at this, you're going to see, okay, well, I know that this is my base that I'm dealing with. So I need to see how do I get my base with variable exponent, to the same base. How do I get them all to the same bases? All right, so let's try and figure that out. Let's go and see how do we get that to the same base. Okay, now, something you need to know, especially for NBT, is how to sort out your powers. So, for example, 3 to the power of 1 is obviously 3. 3 to the power of 2 is obviously 9. 3 to the power of 3 is 27. Now, let me show you guys something about this 3 to the power of 3 being 27 so that it makes a little bit more sense when I do the next piece. 3 to the power of 3 is basically 3 squared times 3. So this can essentially be known as 9 times 3, which is a lot easier to understand if you don't know what 3 cubed is, right? So 9 times the 3 is going to give us 27. Now the same thing, let me just put that as... Now the same thing goes for if we have 3 to the power of 4. Now how do we figure out what 3 to the power of 4 is? This can be broken up as 3 squared times 3 squared. So what is 3 squared? Is 9. The other 3 squared is obviously 9. 9 times 9 is 81. Now obviously you have to know your basic multiplication for this. You obviously can't just know, you can't just swap this off. You have to understand how your basic multiplication works. So that's our 81 there. So we know that 3 to the power of 4 is essentially 81. So now that's what we're going to represent it as. 3 to the power of 4 to the power of x minus 3 to the power of 4 to the power of x is equal to 3 to the power of 1001. Then what do? Then we say the following. We are now going to have this as 4 times 3 to the power of 4x minus 3 times, minus 3 to the power of 4x is equal to 3 to the 1001. Now what happens from here? Guys, this is where it's important. You got to see that you do have a common factor of 3 to the power of 4x. You do have a common factor of 3 to the power of 4x. So here we have it, 3 to the power of 4x. We're going to take that out. We'll be left with 4. Here we'll be left with 1. And 3 to the power of 1001. So now it's 3 to the power of 4x into 3 is equal to 3 to the power of 1001. Now this is where the important bit comes along as well. When we divide by 3, it's essentially this here. It's 3 to the power of 1001 divided by 3 to the power of 1, essentially. Now, when you take this 1 to the top, it's obviously going to become a minus 1. So that's 3 to the power of 4x is basically equal to 3 to the power of 1001 minus 1. So it's 3 to the power of 4x is basically equal to 1000. What do we know then? Once we have the same bases, we can get rid of it. So same bases, you get rid of your bases. And then you have 4x is equal to 1000. And obviously x is then equal to 250. That's easy enough. Okay, so guys, let me find out from you. Any questions on the way I've done this one? Obviously, if you have attempted it, I'm hoping you have gotten to this value as well. And please remember, guys, NBT is without the use of a calculator. So please don't put yourself at a disadvantage and use your calculators in these preps. Please don't. Please make sure you are not using your calculators and going through basic fundamental maths, yeah? All right, let me just see if there's any questions that you guys have. Obviously, if you also don't want a message in the chat box, you can send me a WhatsApp. Either one is fine, really. No. Okay. Seems good for now then, guys. Right, let's go into our second one. All right, so our second one is x And it's not times, guys. This is x with this operation or this function y. So it's x with that function y or x with that operation y. Now it says that this is going to be equal to x minus 3 times that other y value. So what we should notice is the following. We should notice that the x remains the same with this operation, but the y is being times by minus 3. The y is being times by minus 3. So that's what this operation basically tells us. It then says find the value of this 3 operation of this here. Now, guys, you're still going to be using your normal rules for maths, your whole board maths or bad maths rules. Brackets needs to be done first. So if we're saying brackets needs to be done first, this is what we're going to be doing. Let's sort out this 2 operation 5 first, right? So 2 operation 5 or 2 function 5. So like we said in our actual starting point, we said that x pretty much remains the same. The x value remains the same. So we need to just put down this 2. Then we said that this y value essentially needs to be multiplied by minus 3. So that's what we do as well. So we're going to say minus this 3 times the y value, and our y value is essentially 5. Okay, so this is 2 minus 15, and that's going to give us minus 13. Perfect. So we now know that this whole piece here is just minus 13. So what we're dealing with now is 3 operation minus 13. Okay, so now let's do the same thing again. So like we said, the x stays as the x. So this is the x, so it stays as that. Then the y, which is obviously this, the y, you need to multiply minus 3 to the y. So now we're just going to say minus 3 times that minus 13. And I don't know why I put this as x. I'm so sorry, guys. I don't know why I put that as x. That should have been just the 3. So the x value stays as the x value. So this is our x value. So it stays as its value there, which is just 3. And then we just go and simplify. So it's going to be 3 minus 3 times minus 13. You need to know your times tables, right? So obviously here, if you, let's say you don't know that it's going to be 39, positive 39. So that's going to end up giving us 42. But let's say you didn't know how to multiply 3 times 13. Basically, just do it like this. The closest 10 for this year is going to be like 10 itself, right? It's not 20. So it's going to be 10 plus 3. And now you just do your normal distribution that you would have done in grade 9 or grade 8. So that's going to be 30 plus 9. So obviously that's 39. Right? Easy maths that way. Just kind of simplifying it so it becomes really easy to understand. Okay, now, guys, you got to tell me any questions on what we've just done. No? Okay, seems good. Guys, please don't feel shy. Please just stop me at any point and we can go through this. Okay. Now, here's a bit of a cooler question, right? So here they tell us we need to determine the area of AOB for 3A. So what I'd like for you guys to do, this is not a difficult one. I'd like for you guys to attempt this one and let me know what you guys get for the area for the shaded portion AOB, right? So it's basically the shaded portion is AOB. Let me give you guys a moment. Think about it. Remember that this entire reflex angle is 300. So I think that's me saying enough. And let's just see if you guys can figure this one out. I'm sure you can, though. Just let me know what answer you guys get in the chat box or send me a message. Send me a picture, anything. Oh, okay. Let me just go back up and just explain something. Guys, please note that this x here, this is not an x. This is multiplication. This is multiplication. So don't put it as x. So when we did this, please understand that, like we said, for this portion here, that x's stays as x's. So that means this 3 must stay as a 3. And then the y, like we said, is being is going to get multiplied by this minus 3. Whatever y value we had must get multiplied by that minus 3. So here's our y value. It's getting multiplied by that minus 3. It's not x, it's multiplication there. Okay. Sorry, guys, let me just go back now. Hope that makes sense also. All right, guys, for 3a, please give this a go. If anyone does know how to do the arc length, I think there's maybe some of you guys who do ad maths or AP maths, you'd have learned about arc length and you'd have done radians. And you can use that sector is called S is equal to r theta. But if you don't do ad maths or AP maths, I'll explain how to do the arc for B. Okay, so let me just start here, and I'm hoping that you guys would know the following, is that our remaining angle there would be 60. Our remaining angle there would be 60, guys. So now we just need to find area of a circle, and then we know that we're only basically using 60 degrees of it. We're only using 60 degrees of it. Let me just see if anyone gets an answer for this before I mark it. One over 6, dear, that's perfect. So obviously I know you're going to say pi, r, and the rest of it, but 1 over 6 is what I am looking for as the fraction value. So here we're going to say the normal area for a circle is pi r squared. But now we need to multiply by the portion that we are dealing with. So obviously the portion that we are dealing with 60 degrees out of a total of 360 degrees. So all we're going to say now is that this is going to be pi r squared times how much? Times 60 divided by 360. 60 divided by 360 is basically 1 over 6. So we're dealing with basically 1 over 6 pi r squared, or it's pi r squared divided by 6. Whichever way you want to do it, either way is fine, really. Okay, so I hope that makes sense, guys. Again, I really hope that does make sense. Zara, you can just send me like the calculation that you did. I think you may have ended up using the circumference thing, but yeah. Okay, so next part, guys, is for us to do B, and B, like I said, is to determine the length of the arc AB. Like I said, if you do AP or ad maths, you'd understand the concept of a sector. But yeah. No stress, Sarah. Don't stress it. It's just, it's okay. It's okay. This is obviously just the first time you're doing this type of maths, really. So I don't mind those small mistakes. Adila, I think you had your hand up. Did you need something? Okay. Because like I said, here we want the length of the arc AB. So the arc is essentially this. This is the arc that we worried about. I should maybe try and draw that a little bit better. So that is the arc that we are worried about, AB. And they say that OA is equal to 12. So OA is equal to 12 units. So that means OB would also be equal to 12 units. All right, guys, let me see if anyone is able to figure out that arc length. My hint is think about circumference. Try and figure out what you know about a circumference. The only other thing that I maybe need to do is just tell you guys that the formula for a circumference is 2 pi r, and maybe you guys can use that same logic from what we did in the area part for the circumference portion. Okay, guys, I'm gonna see if I get any answers as yet. 4 pi, 4 pi. Okay, let's go and confirm with this here, right? So we've got a lot of you guys who are saying that it's 4 pi. Let's go and confirm. Right, so for our arc length AB, we are going to say that yes, it's 2 pi r, but now we need to multiply by the portion of the circle that we are dealing with. So again, we basically dealing with 60 over 360. So 2 pi times 12 times 1 over 6. Right? So what we're going to have from here, simple stuff. We know that obviously you can do it like this. It really depends on how you want to sort this out. I will just do it like this. I'll say that 12 goes into 6 2 times. So basically I have it as 2 pi times 1, sorry, times 2 over 1. But if you don't want to do it like that, there are other ways for you to do this. I'll do it maybe in the second way, which is normally the easier way for you guys. So we're going to multiply 2 times the 12, and that's going to give us 24 pi. And then divide by the 6. And obviously 24 divided by the 6 is the 4 pi, like you guys got. Okay, so there are multiple ways that you can obviously multiply this. You just need to determine which is your easiest way to multiply it. But yeah, guys, I'm happy that you guys got that. Okay, yep, guys, we need to simplify this particular trig expression. So, guys, hint for this thing is the first thing you want to do is you want to convert everything to within an acute angle, because that's the whole purpose of reduction, right? Why we do reduction is so that we can convert all of our angles to between 0 and 90. So yeah, that works, that works, that works, that works. The only one that doesn't is the 205. So you want to make sure you convert it into an angle between 0 and 90 and see if you guys can figure this one out. Let me give you guys like 2 minutes. Okay, so let me just do this. So guys, obviously sine 65 stays as that for now. Cos of 205 is going to be within the third quadrant, so that's going to be 180 plus the 25 plus the cos squared 25. And then here we need to be able to sort that out. The sine squared 70 minus the cos squared 70. Let's just see how we think. Let me give you guys a little bit of a moment. Another minute or so. Okay, so let's do this here. Sine squared 70. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take out a negative and I'm going to make the sine squared 70 plus the cos squared 70. I'm going to close that bracket. Now I want you guys to know that, okay, this is still sine 65. Now 180 plus is the third quadrant. Obviously, my function is negative in that quadrant, so it's going to be times the minus cos 25 plus cos squared 25 minus, now we know, sine squared plus cos squared is essentially 1. So that's just times by that 1. All right, next up, what we're going to be doing is sine of 65, right? So what we're going to be doing now is this, and understanding this here, that when you have sine and cos and their angles add up to 90, when you have sine and cos and their angles add up to 90, you need to know that those functions have the same value, right? Those functions have the same value. Now, you would have known this here in a bit of a more like complicated way. You would have just known this as, oh, I have to say 90 minus or 90 plus or 270 minus 270 plus. Now, what I'm telling you is obviously, if you have sine and cos and their angles add up to 90, they have the same value. So you can convert them into each other essentially. So sine 65 essentially is cos of 25 times minus cos 25 here plus cos squared 25 minus the 1. When we multiply these two together, what are we going to get? We're going to get this is minus cos squared 25 plus cos squared 25 minus the 1. So minus cos squared 25, let me do it in minus cos squared 25 cancels with positive cos squared 25, and we are just left with minus 1. That's that. Okay, guys, does that make some sort of sense? Any questions on this here, please let me know. Okay, seems good. Okay, so what I want to actually do is I want to do another question here. I just thought about it now. I'm not going to do the range of the graphs as yet, of the 3 graphs. Let's see what other shapes. Okay, no, I need to just get a shape here. Okay, guys, forgive me, it's not going to be perfect, but this is what I want to deal with. Sorry. So some type of octagon. Okay, some type of octagon. And they do this. They say that this angle to that angle is theta. Okay, so that angle there is theta. And they'd like for us to figure out how to calculate this angle here being theta. And they obviously also tell us that the center is pretty much there. And yeah. Let's see if you guys can figure this one out. Put the center a little bit more on that side. I know it's not perfectly drawn for the center, but obviously I didn't draw a perfect octagon either. Let's see if anyone can figure out what that angle theta would be. It's a bit of a weird one, but I think it's kind of a cool question because it does relate to a little bit of Euclidean. So that will be your hint. It relates to a little bit of, not actually a little bit, it relates to Euclidean, grade 11 Euclidean, and specifically your theorem 2. Please note that this is a regular octagon. All sides are equal. Not a single guess. Okay, let me start explaining it like this here. So we're saying it's all it's all equal sides. So if this was the center and we had to draw like equal portions of like pizza slices in a sense, right? Obviously it's not perfect here, but if we had to draw it like that, then how would you find the angle for one of those pizza slices? How would you find the angle for one of those pizza slices, guys? So exactly that. Zara, exactly what you said is what we're going to be doing. So here we are going to say that because there's 8 slices essentially, let me just draw that again. So because we have 8 slices, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, We want to divide it into 8 equal parts. And what's going to happen if we do that? Oh, sorry, guys. If we divide it into 8 equal parts, we need to find out what that angle would be. So it would be 360 divided by 8. So what we're saying is that this particular pizza slice here would have an angle of 360 divided by 8 because it's 8 equal slices. So 360 divided by 8, we need to figure out what that is. Now, if you can't divide 360 by 8, it's okay. It's okay. What you do is the following. You break up this 8 into something a little bit easier to divide this 360 by. So you'll say, okay, I'm going to break it up into 2 times 4. Now I go and say, okay, how much is 360 divided by 4? Because I know I can divide it by 4, or you can even divide it by 2. It's really like up to you in that sense. Probably most of the time you guys would go like this here. 360 divided by 2. And we know that that is essentially going to be 180 over 4. Now, again, if you can't think about how to do 180 divided by 4, you just break it up further. You just break it up further and you say, okay, well, that's basically 180 divided by 2 times 2. Now, 180 divided by 2 is going to obviously give us 90. 90 divided by 2 is 45. So you can do it step by step by step. If you aren't comfortable just going exactly 360 divided by 8 is the 45. Okay, so now we know that this is 45 degrees. We know that this piece inside here is 45 degrees. This piece inside here is 45. And like Zara, like you said, angle at center is 2 times angle at circumference. So this is that shape that you guys are supposed to see. Angle at center is twice angle at circumference. So therefore, theta is basically 45 divided by 2, which is the 22.5. Okay. So yeah, I thought this was a really cool question to bring into your guys' attention. I hope this does make sense. Let me just, if I can, write that in black because it's a bit weird to see that angle of 45. So that's 45 degrees there. Okay, so obviously theta is going to be the 22.5. It's the half of the 45. All right, guys. So what I want to do next is I actually want to do this. I'll leave the trig stuff that I wanted to do, this trig graph stuff. I'll leave this for the next lesson, and then we're going to go on to this one. So for now, just don't call this 5. Obviously, we did 5 already. This is going to be our question 6 that we're going to do. All right. So guys, we need to be able to evaluate this obviously without the use of a calculator. So let me show you guys the way that I would do this. Right? So I would essentially do the following. I would put everything to this biggest value here, this 2050. I will try and put everything in terms of that 2050. So to do that, so 2050 stays as 2050. Now, how do I get this as a version of 2050? I'm going to be shifting this comma 1, 2, 3 spaces. I'm shifting that comma 3 spaces. So when I'm shifting it 3 spaces, obviously this way, it's going to be times 10 to the minus. So this is going to be 2050 times 10 to the minus 3. So that I can take those spaces back. So I can take it 3 spaces back. Now again, here, how many spaces do I need to go now to my right? I need to go 2 spaces to my right. So that's 20, so it's 2050, but times 10 to the minus, not 3, but to the minus 2. Because I need to go 2 spaces back. And then here, this 205, we're going to call it 2050 times 10 to the minus 1. Okay, so now let's have a look at essentially what we have. So here, we are going to do this. This is going to give us times 10 to the minus 3 essentially, right? So let me rewrite that for us at the bottom. So it's still 2050 times 2050 times 10 to the minus 3 all over 2050 times 2050. But now, like I said, same basis, we're going to add those exponents. So that's going to become times 10 to the minus 3 for the bottom. What happens then? we know that both of these are times 10 to the minus 3s. That goes away. And then we also have basically 2050, 2050 cancel, 2050, 2050 cancel, and we are just left with 1. And that's that. So that's how we sort out these types of like calculation questions. No, so obviously you get no marks. So the question is, guys, if you didn't see it, do you have to show the working out? Guys, for the NBT, there is no marks allocated for working out. You're basically solving, and you're going to have like 4 options, A, B, C, D, maybe E as well for some of them. And you just have to choose the correct one. So the reason why I'm just showing you guys now, for now, just how to calculate it is because later on when you do the past paper sort of stuff, you'll see that the answers are given. It's just a multiple choice like test. That's what the NBT is, a multiple choice test. So no marks allocated for working out, guys. None at all.